Support the CoCo Show and listen ad-free. Plus get cool perks and rad swag. Visit our page at patreon.com/thecoco show. Hi everybody, welcome to the CoCo Show. I'm John.
I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're going to be talking about Berserk.
Woo, I've been doing that a lot here recently, going that.
You've gone Berserk?
Oh man, it's been a rough week, but I'm telling you.
Are you familiar with the Ray Stevens song about the squirrel that went Berserk?
Yeah, at the first something another church.
Right?
Yeah, I did. And I loved that song as a kid.
Yeah. Ray Stevens, it seems like you sort of, everybody loves Ray Stevens as a kid, and then at some point you sort of age out.
Yeah, because now I don't like him. You're right. You're exactly right. But the streak and all that stuff, I thought that was all great.
Yeah, I used to just roll around on the floor in tears laughing.
You know what killed it for me? Everything is Beautiful. That's what took me out of the Ray Stevens.
It's not really your bag, huh?
It's funny because there's a wrestler named Ray the Crippler Stevens.
Really?
Real famous, great worker from California.
Is he still?
No, he's passed. He's passed on. And so I would often get them confused.
He didn't work that shtick in though. He didn't like throw a squirrel at anybody or anything.
He would break a squirrel. He was bad.
He was a heel.
He was a heck of a worker.
What promotion did he work out of?
This is 60s. You know, it's before your time, but California.
Yeah.
He worked AWA and stuff like that. Speaking of him, his old partner was Nick Bockwinkel. They were a tag team, and I just got out of the blue. Someone sent me a Facebook request. And it was Nick Bockwinkel.
I got that too.
You did?
He sent us both of them.
He's dead.
Really?
Nick Bockwinkel died years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So this new Nick Bockwinkel is an impersonator of some sort. Maybe Ray Stevens will hook up with us too.
We got to get Retro Man Cave on the. He's good at unmasking all of those guys.
That's it. There you go, man.
So let's talk about Berserk, Aaron.
Well, you know, this is one I've also remembered from back in the day, Boatster.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was always a big fan of the arcade game Berserk with a Z.
Did you play this in the arcade?
I did.
Really?
I did. And so before we jump into this, let's take a brief look at the arcade game of the same name with a different spelling. So in the arcade, this was Berserk with a Z, developed by Stern, still around, making pinball back in the day, designed by a fellow named Alan McNeil. This came out in the arcades in 1980, way back, Boat, and ran on a Z80 at 2 megahertz.
This is a very early machine.
Now, let's talk about some of the cool features of this game. Berserk was one of the first arcade video games to use speech synthesis.
Yep.
And you fight robots in this game, and the robots will taunt you and talk to you. It's said that in 1980, voice compression was so expensive, but I've heard this many times, that every time you have a word synthesized, it costs you $1,000.
Wow, man!
And this game had 30 words in it.
$30,000.
So if that's true, I find that hard to believe.
I find that hard to believe as well.
That's $30,000. Now I'm gonna, just for fun, I thought I'd go over some of the things this thing says. All right, see if you remember any of these. Did you ever play this in the arcade?
No. In fact, I've never played this in the arcade. Of course, I was born in 1981, but I've never. Even in the the retro arcades I've been to, I've never been drawn to this game.
Have you played its sequel, Frenzy?
No, I've never even heard of that.
So here are some of the things it would say, and this is my personal favorite. During a track mode, when it was showing the high scores, it would say "coin detected in pocket."
It's pretty good. Pretty good.
It also, it's the very famous intruder alert. Intruder alert. There's that one. Then there's the humanoid must not escape, or it sometimes would say the intruder must not escape.
What is the thing, Danger Will Robinson?
That's from the show Lost in Space. That was the robot would say that whenever Will Robinson was in trouble.
So that's not affiliated with this game.
No,
okay.
No. What a very no. I'll just say no, it's not affiliated.
Okay.
I'll cut myself off.
I've never seen that before.
Something else it would say is chicken, fight like a robot. And then also it would say, got the humanoid, got the intruder. That's what it shot
really?
at. Yeah.
Now, you don't know who was actually the source of these voices.
I don't.
It wasn't like James Earl Jones or something.
No. That's a CNN. No, but whatever they did to make these voices, this is the first game I remember ever hearing voices in.
Oh yeah, I think
It seems like there was a pinball game that had voices that I'd heard before, but this is the first arcade machine I ever heard.
Whenever you read about this game, they make a big deal out of it.
Well, this was a huge deal because the one thing this had was you could hear the sound. It sounded like talking.
Yeah.
It sounded like a robot talking. And I remember walking past this thing with that coin detected in pocket thing, and it was like, whoa, does it know I'm here?
Right.
You know, of course it didn't, but still, it was, it was whack. And you're a kid. I mean, this is 80. So, I mean, I was only 9 back when this came out. And so, but I mean, this thing hung around forever. And it's just, it's a great, simple game. So, and of course, Berserk was a huge hit in the arcades. And it spawned many, many imitators, including what we're going to talk about today. Plus, it's rip-offs and homages and upgrades. I mean, it's as simple as it could be. Run from monsters room to room. And it was a great game. And like I said, Frenzy was a sequel in the arcade, which was also pretty good. So we move on to the CoCo game here of the same name, sort of, Berserk with an S. These guys must have gotten in trouble with this name because at some point, I think in '82, they changed the name of this thing to Haywire, which actually Haywire is a pretty good name.
It is,
to be honest with you. And I think I probably would have went with that. You know, we've seen this before where these guys, like remember Donkey King had the exact same thing happen. Anyway, this game was authored by a fellow named Ron Krebs. Now, I looked this guy up.
Is he related to Maynard?
No, not that I know of. Also, Maynard G. Krebs is fictional. This guy authored a game that I played quite a bit back in the day called Astro Blast. He also did a game called Cave Hunter, and he did a game with a fellow named Rob Shaw called Touch Tomb, which I think you might play.
Are these all CoCo games?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is published by an outfit called Mark Data Products. Now, I remember these guys from a bunch of their adventure games. Listen to this list of games. You got Calypso Island, Sequest, Shenanigans, and then here's some of the ones I really liked: Black Sanctum, Trek Bower, which I played the crap.
Trek Bower?
Trek Bower was like you were on a starship, so it was like Star Trek.
Right.
These are sort of like, remember when we looked at, like when we talked about Dallas Quest or so like these are
so it's like a graphical
text adventure
like
game.
Queen of the Desert or Sands of the Desert.
Yes, exactly. But these were, listen, you know me, I'm not an adventure game guy, but a young Aaron.
I'd like to check out Trek Bower.
A Black Sanctum. I played Shenanigans.
That sounds like something Wilcox would have been.
No, I was into it, dude. I played Calypso. I played all these. Yeah. I played them all. So they also did the Cave Hunter, the Astro Blast as well. So again, this came out in '81 as Berserk, and then changed the name like somewhere in '82, I think. This ran on any of the CoCos with 16K with a butt, which we'll get to. So, what is Haywire? We'll just call it Haywire for the sake of saying what it is. So, you are a fellow in a maze with a crap load of robots that you can shoot. That's the game.
That's the game.
You run through the maze and shoot the robots, or they shoot you. If you linger too long in a room, then a happy face bounces on the screen. This is exactly like in the arcade. In the arcade, the happy face is called Evil Otto.
What's he called in this
I'm not
game?
sure what he's called here. I didn't see any documentation for this, but he looks exactly the same, so we'll call him Evil Otto. What makes Berserk fun is, because it sounds real simple, and it is. You run through a maze, shooting robots, and try not to get shot. The robots' idiocy makes this game fun, because they've purposely made the robots not super smart. And so the robots will do things like run into the wall and die. They'll run into each other and die. They'll shoot each other and die. Or they'll shoot one of the robot buddies and die. They can die by their own hand. And so a lot of times you can just, by the way you walk and maneuver, you can get them to kill themselves. There are multiple exits in these mazes. Now in the arcade, the mazes are sort of like randomly generated. And so there are like an infinite number. I mean, there is a number. I saw a special with some guys that were playing this like for high scores and insanity type arcade scores. And there's a pattern to how these rooms go. And in fact, it was exploited by one of the guys to get a high score.
So are the rooms, can you explain that a little bit? I mean, do you know enough about it to talk about how they're generated?
I know from the documentary I saw in the arcade, there was a path that you could take through the maze, and the reason this is important, as I recall, was that when you came into a new room, you would know where you were at, you would know what the layout would be, and so people that could exploit this could get a better score effectively, and it made a lot of the people mad that played this thing naturally without trying to game it. Now, the CoCo version of this, I don't think it does that, because I saw. And this game, first of all, is pretty tough. I don't know how well you did at it. I did okay.
Not well. You're watching my playthrough right now.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you got a point there. The mazes seem to repeat. I couldn't. There was no set pattern that I noticed, but that doesn't mean anything, because usually I'm just running as fast as I can to the door. You can literally leave a room and go to another room and not kill a thing if you can make it.
Right.
On the first level of this, the robots don't shoot. Every level after that, they do. Now, in the arcade, as I recall, the different colored robots were smarter. I don't know if there are different colored robots in the CoCo version, but I don't know if I couldn't really tell a difference. They all seem pretty deadly to me, to be honest with you. And again, I didn't read anywhere where there was a difference or any rhyme or reason there to their color. They will shoot you. Some of them, sometimes they'll have really good action, but most of the time they just get lucky when they shoot you. If you touch the walls in this game, you're instantly dead.
That's right.
So the 3 ways you die, 4 ways. You can touch a robot, you die. You touch a wall, you die. You get shot by a robot, you die. You touch Evil Otto, you die.
And according to Curtis, it's Evil Orville in this game.
Very clever.
Yeah.
They really went out of their way on that one, didn't they, Curtis? So, what were your thoughts? Again, not being a big Berserk player before this, what did you think?
Well, I'm not a big. I've always hated this game.
Oh, so you didn't like it before you played this?
Right.
Okay.
This is probably my least favorite classic with a big C arcade game. I've always found this game to be incredibly repetitive, ugly, extremely plain, and needlessly difficult. The only thing in my mind that this game has going for it is the voice synthesis, which is cool. That said, this game does a pretty good job of replicating the arcade experience in that it's very plain, it's needlessly difficult, and it's kind of ugly. One thing that I noticed is that Evil Orville comes at you a lot quicker in this game. Now, Curtis, he theorized that that's a word I just made up. That I had some sort of a weird version of this game because Evil Otto came out so quick, but this was the version that was on the SDC. So who knows what's on there? I just don't like this game, so it's hard for me to say that the CoCo version is fine, but it's just it's just there's not much there. I like games where there are multiple strategies you can employ. There are several ways to get points. There are different things you can do, and in this game, literally all you do is you walk through a maze and you shoot robots and you try and avoid getting killed.
Yeah, I can understand your point of view, but and I think I can have a different point of view because this game was a much bigger deal when I was younger, and it was a much simpler time. Okay, we'll go there. Now, I love this game. I always loved Berserk. By the way, I think this is, from my recollection, this was my favorite Berserk clone on the CoCo. This isn't the only one. In fact, I believe there's one that actually talks, but this one doesn't.
So there is no voice synthesis module pack for this game?
No. I thought this game, the reason I like this game the best is because the controls are good, and also you can tell where your guy's shooting, and it does, because diagonals are always a problem, and it does a good job. And plus, this worked pretty well with the Black Beauty, and I thought it was a pretty fair game. The robots act like they're supposed to, and that's part of it, because some of these games, the robots don't act right. It's not as much fun. That's part of it. One thing that's odd is your guy seems large in this. I don't remember him being this big in the arcade, but I'd have to go back and look.
He is animated well. One of the things that I noticed when you shoot diagonally, it's almost like you're shooting out of your finger, but his little finger will like articulate. Yeah. And I thought that was kind of neat.
I remember distinctly, and Curtis or one of the people in the chat that have played this many times could tell me I'm an idiot. I remember distinctly back, and I didn't do it this time around, but back when I was a kid, that I could if you did it right, you could be shot and have the bullet go through your neck hole and not kill you.
Mm-hmm. I have read that before.
So you did. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Because I was like, man, I may be crazy, but I remember doing that. I mean, it's not like you want to do it, but you do your best.
It's funny. Buck Owens in the chat says that he didn't like this game, but he likes Seamus. And I never thought about it before, but I'm exactly the same way. Seamus is, it was only on computers, but that to me is a much better game because Seamus moves a lot more quickly. There's others that you pick up keys and things like that. It just adds one more layer of complexity to it.
It's funny you should mention Seamus because that's one of the games I got in that TRS-80 haul.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if I sold it or not. I may still have it. I know I tried to sell it, but no one wanted it the first time around. But I've got the full thing. I'm not sure I've ever played it, to be honest with you. So
it's great. Well, I played it on the Atari, but I'm sure the CoCo version's great.
Yeah. One thing we should mention is the weird glitchiness of this thing. When you play this on a CoCo 3, this goes into a mode, I believe, as Curtis described it on lcurtisboyle.com, the best place to go for all your CoCo gaming wants and desires. This game goes into a mode, I believe it's called P mode 4 or something like that. It goes into a mode for the title screen and for the score screens that happen in between your deaths that the CoCo 3 just can't handle.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of getting something that is something, you get a big weird rainbow of colors, and it's all screwed up looking. It doesn't hurt the game, it doesn't affect the game, but it's something that I remember when I looked, because I didn't remember that when I booted this up into 3. I was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Because I was watching videos and I was like, that one says Berserk. Why does mine say bleh?
Mm-hmm.
That's why. So there you go.
Yeah. I played this on the CoCo, and in fact, on my on the playthrough video that I did of this, I put in the link. Curtis actually made a hack where it eliminates the player select screen where you press 1 or 2, that becomes blind, but everything else comes back. So Curtis actually went in and changed the code of the game because that's just the kind of guy he is.
He is the man. He is the man. Overall, though, to summarize, I like this. I think it's a pretty good game of Berserk. It looks like the arcade. It plays pretty much like the arcade for the most part, and I dug it. So, but I can understand. I will say I have a soft spot for this game too because this is one of the first games that I played with my son. When I was trying to get him into some games, I thought to myself, "What's a simple game that Luke can play that is very straightforward?" And this was one of the first games I thought of. And so Luke played, and I'm talking like early. This is like when he was like 3 or 4. We were playing Berserk on the arcade machine. Mm-hmm. And he liked it. We haven't played it for a while. I doubt he'd be as interested now as he used to be, but I may be slightly biased. I looked this thing up in a couple magazines to see what I could find. Now, it's funny when you look a lot of these old reviews up, and it's funny because you can see how far journalism and game review came. From back in the day. And so a lot of these things are really sort of just like everything's great, we love it, real cheesy. I looked this up. This is reviewed in the March 1982 Rainbow, and the article is titled "This Will Drive You Berserk." They loved it. They thought it was a really good game. They gave it an A+, so there you go. Also, this is another one I found on the Popular Computer Weekly from the UK, October 21st, 1982. It's in actually the same issue that our previous game was in, and they gave Berserk an 80%. They liked it as well. It's a good game if you're into Berserk. It's just like anything else. If you're not in the arcade version, you're not gonna like the clone.
Right.
That's all there is to it. We get any Discord on this?
We did. Let's see. L. Curtis Boyle says, I believe that this was the first commercial third-party game that used artifacting colors. So a bit of a milestone, since officially there was no color in that graphics mode. Very faithful to the arcade, except for the lack of digitized speech, mainly because it had to fit in 16K, loading from cassette, and with very good sound effects for this early in the CoCo's life. Nowadays, it's a bit repetitive, but I have to give it a solid 8.5 out of 10 even now for faithful arcade adaptation. It would have been a 9.5 out of 10 back in the day, as it was much better than most other games out that early. And I will say, graphically compared to, say, Starship Chameleon, this is a better looking game. I mean, this.
Well, they made it look like the arcade.
Right.
That's a big compliment. That's as best you can do. If this had the digitized speech, which we know is possible, and not in 30 words, but some, this would have been a straight up home run. And there were, like I said, I wish they'd. I wish there was a little more. I mean, because the robots behave differently in the arcade depending on how far you get into it. But I mean, those are nitpicky. I mean, overall, this plays a pretty decent game of Berserk, especially if you look at what was out at the time. This crushed everything that had home versions back in the day.
Mm-hmm. We do want to thank our people that support the show, our patrons, Aaron. These are people that they go to patreon.com/the CoCo Show. You know, there's a lot of benefits. One, you get to submit a review, just like Curtis did. 2, you get a cool magnet at the end of the year. It says CoCo Show supporter on it.
It's really good, too. I always like those.
And 3, you get to hear me read your name live on the air. And what greater honor could there be in this world?
I got nothing to say about that.
We want to thank Steve Rasmussen, Buttons, Jeff Landreth, Graham Bebke, Wing Chun Wolf, Curtis Boyle. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show, and a special thank you to CoCo Show Game Selection Committee member Graham Bebke for choosing Berserk. It was a good one. Oh yeah, and before we go, we do record the show live once a month on Twitch. Usually we try and post an announcement on the CoCo Talk Discord when we're getting ready to do that. And it's twitch.tv/Amigos Retro Gaming, and you can also find all the video archives on the show on our channel, youtube.com/Amigos Retro Gaming. So all the stuff is there. And finally, if you enjoy this show, you may want to listen to some of our other shows on the network. We've got ARG Presents, where Aaron and the Brent tackle a different obscure computer / wacky theme / classic console, something different every week.
Sometimes even Tandy products.
Yeah. There is 1200XL, an Atari 8-bit gaming podcast, Amigos, Everything Amiga, and Our Sinclair, a ZX Spectrum podcast. All these shows can be found on the podcatcher of your choice. All right, Aaron, it's time to hang it up this week. We'll be back next month with another episode of the CoCo Show. See you later.
Bye.